And hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Green Gaming Fest 2023 with the second half of our Indie Darlings double feature. Once again, coming back at you, it's Uppercaserole, this time running Hollow Knight any percent hitless, which I am very excited for. Take it away, Upper.
All right, hello again, everyone. You thought you could get rid of me, but I'm still here. Don't worry, there aren't going to be as many puns this time around because insect puns bug me. Thank you.
Well done.
I'm here for another hour. Okay. I'm still joined on comms by Math, who also runs this game and also has done Hitless of this game, although I'm not sure successfully.
Yeah, my PB is one hit, so I gotta go back to it at some point, but it's okay. You'll show me how to do it.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. So for as you can see, I have a hit counter on the screen. We're gonna do our best. Obviously, this is a marathon. If I get hit, we're just gonna continue the run. I personally am gonna be donating $20 for every single time that I get hit. So we're gonna try and keep it to a minimum. But that's what we're gonna go with here. So let us get started in 3, 2, 1, insect. Wait, that doesn't work nearly as well. But yeah, so this is Hollow Knight. This is a very wonderful Metroidvania, very cute art style, very lovely music, fun gameplay. And our goal is to, it's also very, very difficult. And our goal here is to beat it as fast as we can, but we're not really actually trying to go fast here. The objective is just to try not to get hit, which is a sort of speedrun adjacent content. I do actually speedrun this game as well, and many other games, as we have seen. And I thought it would be cool to try Hitless, and I really enjoyed it personally. If you're a fan of speedrunning, I would recommend maybe trying Hitless in games that you like, because it's sort of a similar sort of challenge, but like a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of similar aspects to it where you have like the improvement, and then like you see the numbers going down, which feels really good and all that stuff. But just sort of like in a different vein, I guess.
Yeah, I think Hitless is. I think it's interesting that there doesn't tend to be a lot of overlap between the speedrunning and the Hitless, or like the communities that do them. But I think like in terms of actual execution, it's pretty enjoyable to do Hitless, or maybe I should say low hit. I think it can be very stressful if your idea is to do I can't get hit at all. You know, obviously jumping into that is like kind of tough. But if you're doing it from a perspective of I'm going to try to finish the game with getting hit as little as possible, then it ends up being a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fair. That is like the one thing, because there is sort of like this, I guess, like perfection end goal. It can be frustrating in some ways, more so than speedrunning, but yeah, I mean, it's about setting your expectations, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't want to go for perfection, then you don't need to. You know, like it's still fun to finish the game with only a couple of hits. As someone who finished the game with one hit and then hasn't done a hitless run since, you know, I could say that. But yeah, the goal of this is just simply beat the game. I notice you're picking up a lot of early geo here. So that's if you're familiar with speedruns of Hollow Knight, usually in the at the very beginning, there's pretty much just a mad rush to get to the first major ability, which is Vengeful Spirit. Here, Upper is taking a little bit of time to gather a lot of geo, because of course the goal is to not get hit. I assume that you're going to be picking up quite a number of things that will try to help with that.
Yep. This room is basically the worst room in the run.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. There are these flying enemies that are completely random. So we're just gonna go slowly, take our time. It's fine, we're not in a rush. This isn't a speedrun. Rushing is how you get yourself killed, or hit, as the case may be.
Yeah, this room, I think, is unironically the most frustrating if you have been speedrunning Hollow Knight and then you come to do Hitless, because the speedrun strat there is complete RNG for whether or not you'll get hit. So you can't go for it unless you're willing to reset your Hitless run basically immediately. But also the brain just aches when you're standing there and waiting and seeing Grezzers just slowly float by.
But in other rooms, you see we do the speedrunner strat, like that room where we fire a ceiling spike and hit 2 of those aspids at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's one thing I enjoyed, sort of coming from speedrunning, is like seeing where, like, in a lot of cases the speedrun strats are the safe strats, but not always. Certainly, in a lot of cases they very much are not.
Yep, absolutely. It is interesting. Like, you know, obviously with any hitless run, you know, the goal is to find something that's very, very consistent. And the nice thing about speedrunning is that's often also the goal, is to find something that's consistent. Some consistent way to deal with bosses, some consistent way to deal with arenas. So a lot of the time those strategies may overlap. Obviously speedrunning also has the additional goal of doing it as fast as possible. So even if it's inconsistent, we may go for things that are quick. Which obviously is sometimes not compatible with Hitless, but yeah, there's more overlap than I would have thought.
Okay. Sometimes you can jump in between these enemies, depending on how they're spaced out, but I didn't quite like the setup there, so I'll take it slow. Just beat them up instead.
Yeah, those enemies are another one where, depending on the spawn, you'll simply get hit if you're doing the speedrun shot, and it can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it's hard to know because the enemies will all move in slightly different ways. So if you aren't entirely sure about how they'll do it, then it can be tough. Okay, and this is the first boss of the run, actually, which is False Knight. False Knight is actually a pretty good example of a boss where the speedrun strat here would be to damage tank.
Yeah.
And obviously we cannot do that for the hitless run. So instead, Upper backs away a little bit in order to give False Knight the space to finish having his tantrum before coming back in and finishing him off. Luckily, False Knight is pretty slow and doesn't pose too much of a threat to the hitless run. But honestly, the thing about hitless too is that there's no real safe spots. You know, there's a few safe spots where there are literally no enemies in a run, but like even some of the early bosses, even a lot of the early enemies, it can be, you know, basically if you lose focus, you'll have problems.
Yeah, focusing is definitely in speedrunning sometimes you can just kind of go on autopilot. Maybe you're not playing super optimally, but like it's fine.
Yeah.
But that's like, you can sort of do that in Hitless too, like, and sometimes you just kind of zone out and do it, but it's a very easy way to just like make a small mistake and get hit as well, which is kind of tricky.
Exactly, especially if your autopilot brain is a little bit too speedrunnery and not enough hitlessy, then sometimes you'll find yourself getting a little bit too loose with things. Trust me, I've been down that road a couple too many times.
The other interesting thing that I do very much like about Hitless is that there's no like optimal route per se. Like I watch actually a lot of Hitless runners on Twitch right now, and like literally no two of them do the same route. You can get, especially in a Metroidvania like this, you can get whatever power-ups you want, whatever power-ups you're comfortable with. If you want a nail focus build or a spell focus build, these are all options, and nothing is necessarily better than the other.
Yeah, I think that's one of the fun things. I love routing in games, and it's nice to just be able to make your own route. Yeah. So I actually don't know entirely all of what your route gets, exactly because of that. Basically, you know, there's a lot of things that you could have, you know, that you could decide to pick up in a hitless run. Most hitless runners, for example, will pick up Desolate Dive because it does actually give you iframes, but it's certainly not necessary to beat the game, so other hitless runners may avoid it.
And there's also trade-offs too, like Desolate Dive as an example is a very scary power-up to actually go and get.
Right.
While powerful, like, do you want to do this in your hitless run? There again, like, maybe not. It's up to the runner to sort of figure out what they're comfortable with.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that makes for a fun experience, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
When I was doing this, I had the very dubious decision of doing Dark Deep Nest in my Hitless runs.
I do remember that vaguely, yeah.
And you know what? It was fun.
I'm going to level with you. I'm not going to be doing Dark Deep Nest.
Wow, disappointing. Not doing Dark Deep Nest in a Hitless run in a marathon. Tragic.
So we're back in this room again. A little bit easier climbing than it is falling down, but we want to get full soul, which in this game is mana, so that we can shoot this boulder here.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it at all, but the ability that Upper just picked up is Vengeful Spirit. It is the first spell, and also intended for access into the area that he's now going into, which is called Green Path. So those boulders, if you try to get close to them to hit them with your nail, they will close up and be unattackable. So we pick up Vengeful Spirit in order to kill them to enter Green Path, but also spells will be a pretty good source of damage for us in really all through the game, but especially in the early game, because Vengeful Spirit deals 15 damage where your nail only deals 5, so it's very, very useful, especially at this point.
But yeah, we can talk a little bit about the game interface. In the top left corner, there's those 5 circles that is my health, which should hopefully never be changing from its current state. And then next to that is the big circle that is my soul meter, which is my mana bar, effectively. You can use your mana to cast spells, such as the Vengeful Spirit, or also to heal. Am I pronouncing that right? I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, shouldn't need to. We're not going to be hearing about that in this round.
Oh, okay. I'm not super confident of this backup damage list in particular. I might just go beat up some birds. So I tried to do what's called the fireball skip there, to skip a big chunk of green path actually, but it's a little bit tricky. There's a backup you can do with that enemy, but I'm, as I said, not super practiced doing it hitless really.
Yeah, it can definitely be tricky once you're introducing an enemy into the mix, but nicely done there on the second attempt. Yeah, so each spell that we cast, it requires 1/3 of the soul meter. So each hit fills it up by 1/9. So the way we get soul is hitting enemies. So 3 hits is good for either a heal or a cast of a spell. Obviously, in this particular run, we won't be doing a whole lot of healing, so it should be basically all used for spells.
And also right now I've equipped a charm, which actually makes it so I gather more soul per hit.
Yes.
The soul catcher charm. I'm going to be getting a couple of charms as sort of power-ups to help make the run easier. And this one costs like almost no time to pick up at all, so...
Yeah, Soul Catcher is wonderful. It makes it so that you get slightly more soul per hit. 7 hits brings you to 98 total soul out of 99. It's a little bit annoying that it ends up working out that way, but 8 hits is full, and it basically allows you to just get a little bit of free soul, which is nice.
Bit of a rude boy there. That's fine. So here's an example. There's a cool strat here you can do to only use 2 fireballs on this guy by getting him to jump backwards into the same fireball twice. And there's like a, I don't know, 5% chance that I'm going to walk into him if I do that, so I just don't do it. We're going to just fire 3 fireballs and be happy with our 100% consistent strats, as it were.
Yeah, that right there is exactly the kind of thing where the speedrun strat, it's pretty consistent. You'll go for that in a speedrun because if it fails, okay, you got hit and you lose just a tiny bit of time. But in a hitless run, obviously you don't have that option. And I imagine it's a similar story here with the Benchfly King. There is a quick kill that you can do with the Benchfly King where you basically use all 3 fireballs and 2 nail swings whilst basically being right next to VK. However, if you're a little bit slow or anything goes wrong, you will end up getting hit there. Although perhaps you didn't want to do that so that you have the soul for these as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I definitely am not super consistent at like the very fast kill, but oops, I wouldn't want to go for it anyways because yeah, we need full mana for these 2 good boys over here.
Yeah, Makes
You
sense.
can see we're going out of our way significantly. We've fought like 2 bosses and a bunch of like extra enemies already just for extra geo. We're trying to get a lot of geo in this run. In the route that I do, we have a lot of things to buy.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's quite a lot of good things that you can purchase, and honestly, early game geo is kind of hard to come by. Most of the good geo sources are relics, which you'll pick up sort of later in the game, but you can't actually sell the relics until you have City of Tears access. And a lot of the things that Upper's going to want to buy are really on our way before then. If you're buying things like Strength or Shaman Stone, which are both very helpful charms, then you really want to pick them up early. Alright, so this is Hornet. Hornet is probably the first like real scary part of Hitless runs, at least in my experience. It's not hard to not get hit to Hornet when you've practiced it quite a lot, but it's also easy to mess up and then suddenly get hit by Hornet. But that was pretty smooth. Nice.
Yeah, I have bouts of like it's cyclical for me. Weirdly, I'll have like stretches of time where Hornet is like totally fine, and then Hornet just suddenly becomes incredibly scary again, and then it goes back to being fine again. It's sort of weird. This has happened like back and forth a few times over like the months that I've been doing Hitless.
Makes sense.
But we have just picked up the shade, or not the shade cloak, the Mothwing cloak, which allows us to dash. We can even use it in the air, so we can now access a few more parts of the map that we couldn't reach beforehand.
Yeah, this is probably the single most important ability to the game experience. So dash is actually not, strictly speaking, required to beat the game, but obviously...
Few things are.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But dash is sort of a no-brainer in any speedrun because, surprise, surprise, it makes it go pretty quick. So, yeah, collecting just a bit more geo. I think you've gotten basically every geo rock that has been even like sort of on the path, and I respect that. Basically,
yeah. Turns out geo rocks don't fight back, so they don't. Very safe for hitless runs, as it turns out.
Yep. All right, so this is a new area that we're into here called the Fungal Wastes, and it is where we're going to get our next major ability. But first, yeah. So you're getting this charm notch. So this right here can be a little bit scary as well. There's 2 enemies here, the Shroomal Ogres, and they...
Oh, dang it.
Oh no, that's $20.
That is. Nasty pattern there, unfortunately, which happens, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about your health, but let's go the trees.
Yeah, so those Shroomal Ogres, as I was saying, can be a little bit tricky because they will, there's 2 of them, and they basically will shoot acid at you when you're far away and do a headbanging attack when you're close. So it's hard to really stand anywhere and not be in some kind of risk of being hit.
Yeah, try to kill the one on the right as fast as possible, so you're only dealing with the one, but you can only kill them so quickly, it turns out.
Yeah. There is a strat upper for that, where if you do 4 nail swings first and then start doing fireballs, then the one on the left won't wake up until you're already using fireballs, and you'll be able to kill with nail cancels. Huh. Yeah.
See, this is why we have you. This is why we have you here.
Yes, to teach you the real strats. No, but I do that for 1xx runs just for consistency there.
All right, we're gonna do a cool skip here. This is the explosion pogo, which is I don't know, maybe not as dangerous as it looks. I don't think I have ever actually lost a hitless run to that trick. It's kind of spooky. You are pogoing a big explosion, but it saves a little bit of time and saves you from having to walk past a bunch of mantis. I will not, however, be going for the mantis pogo, where you can pogo on these things to get up like directly above me faster. That is just too spooky.
Yeah, it's very easy to get hit to that trick. But yeah, the explosion pogo at least is pretty safe. If you fail it, it's usually you don't usually get hit.
You're not. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also going around through Mantis Village is in fact scary. So I think it's the right call. But yeah, this is understandable. The Mantis pogo there obviously would be pretty quick for a speedrun. It saves quite a bit of time. Basically, that entire detour that Upper just took to go to the right and back around would be skipped. But it comes with maybe a 20% plus chance of getting hit, and that's not something you want in your hitless run.
All right, Math, where are we going next?
Ooh, so you didn't pick up City Crest, so
We did not.
I'm hoping that it's Deep Nest, but I assume it's just Tram Pass.
Could be anything.
We're about to find
But yeah,
out.
so this is where the route really opens up. So an any percent speedrun would do a thing called a shade skip to get to Blue Lake, which is sort of what we would like to do, but a shade skip involves intentionally dying, which is problematic when you are trying to avoid getting hit. So we have a couple of other options to get to the right side of City of Tears. The first is to go into left side city, sell relics to Lem. I don't have the City Crest, so I'm not going to be doing that. The other option is to go into Deep Nest and get Tram Pass. Both of those options are actually quite cursed, and I'm going to take the third option, which is to go beat up the Mantis Lords. I find this option a lot of fun because the Mantis Lords are really fun, and I'm doing this for fun after all. But also the Mantis Lords give us a couple of really useful rewards that are going to help out a lot in this run. So that's what we're going to go do.
I think Quack is probably ecstatic at the choice to do early Mantis Lords in the.
I was just weighing completely throwing away my speedrunning career and becoming a hitless runner of this game for early Mantis Lords specifically.
Yeah, early Mantis Lords actually is wonderful. So you're using Mantis Lords for your Deep Nest access, and I think that's beautiful. Yeah, this boss, probably if you played this game casually at all, you remember this boss. It's not normally seen in the any percent run, and early Mantis Lords I think doesn't appear in basically any speedrun of this game that isn't literally designed to fight them. Oh, that's right.
So you can tell where they're going to throw that frisbee disc based on where they land on the wall. So I really needed to jump there because they were clearly going to throw it low. But for some reason, I just decided not to. That's all right, though.
That's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, these bosses here are definitely tricky when you're fighting them early. You don't have a lot of damage, and you have to dodge for quite a while. For most casual players, this would have been a bit of a wall. In fact, it's expected to be such a wall that there's a character that will appear at the entrance to this area if you die to this boss in return, who will tell you to leave and come back later when you have more damage. So it's kind of fun. Definitely tricky. Once you have the patterns down, then it can be definitely consistent for a hitless run, but obviously very easy to get hit to as well. GG's there, Upper.
We bow, of course.
Obviously.
It's important. Yeah, another sort of tricky part about that fight is they have the attack where they spawn like on the ground and like dash across the arena. And when they do that, if you're standing on like the left or right side of the arena, they can just spawn directly on top of you and hit you. So in addition to like fighting them, you have to be very cognizant of where you're standing at all times and like not be standing on the left or right sides of the arena. And like where I stand is like set up so that A, I'm not on the sides of the arena, and B, they can't force me to move to the sides of the arena with their attack patterns, which adds some more complexity, as it were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways, our reward for Mantis Lords, we get a crap ton of Geo, a relic, as well as the Mark of Pride, which, in addition to being extremely gay, also makes our nail much longer, which is very, very much useful when you're trying not to get hit. So, I'm assuming my route is starting to make some sense to math now. I currently have 1,850 Geo. Where do you think we're going now?
Yeah, this is a twist I did not expect, and now I understand why you needed
Literally every Georock.
of all the
Yeah.
geo that you needed. So, yes, there's so there's one more thing that we can do to progress here, and it comes from the merchant that is currently locked at the bottom of the crossroads here, Sly. So Upper is going to be going and saving Sly and picking up a lovely little item called the Lumifly Lantern. At least I assume so. If you've got 1850 right. Geo and taking a different route, I would love the bait. For a second, I wondered if you would take the route through the False Night Arena and pick up City Crest there, just to throw me off. Which would have been very funny, but
also, I'll just mention briefly. So I've equipped the Mark of Pride, which makes my nail longer. I'm now in a state called Overcharmed. I have more charms equipped than I should be able to. While in this state, there are no drawbacks other than the fact that I will receive double damage. Also, I should update my hit counter because I did take 2 hits there. Let me just do that quickly. So we're at 3 hits now. So yeah, we're going to take double damage for basically the entire rest of the run, but again, given that we are trying to do this hitless, that isn't that big a deal. I've messed up this fight already, and that's okay.
Yeah, Overcharming, I think, has been pretty much every hitless route. It's something that is easy to miss if you just play this game casually, and it's not actually often done in speedruns. Well, depending on the speedrun. There are some speedruns that will Overcharm for quite long segments, like 112%. But in hitless, there's literally no downsides because, you're not taking a hit anyway, so the double damage doesn't matter, and you just get the benefit of an additional charm.
Alright, so here we're rescuing the shopkeeper Sly, so that we can return to Dartmouth, the town, and purchase things from them. Including the Lumifly Lantern, which is basically what this whole route has been working towards with all the... We've fought literally like 3 or 4 bosses and gotten literally every single Georock just so that we can afford his most expensive item, the Lumifly Lantern.
Yeah, this is definitely a rough way to get the 1800 Geo, and I kind of love it. So like I said, there's no real great early game sources of Geo because most of the good ways to get Geo are to go sell to Lem, who's in the city, and you need to pick up a bunch of relics. So Mantis Lords are probably the primary other source of money in the fact that they drop 620 Geo, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Which is a ton. Lumifly Lantern is the single most expensive item sold by Sly, and just about the most expensive item in the game. So it is definitely definitely hard to gather that Geo in time, and I like that you're able to get exactly that much with all of those Geo rocks. You really did need every little bit of Geo to make it work.
Yeah, I tried. So I read this myself. This route evolved over a long time. I started with spell builds. Eventually, I transitioned to a nail build, which I found a lot comfier. And yeah, I sort of on a whim was like, I wonder if you could actually, what if I just get every Geo rock? How much Geo would that actually be? As it turns out, it's basically exactly enough to get the lantern, which allows us to get into this room, which allows us to get to Crystal Peak, which is a very useful area to be able to reach.
Yeah, I think pretty much every run of Hitless that isn't my silly and bad route picks up the lantern at some point anyway, because otherwise you do have to go through Dark Deep Nest, either early or late in the run. So getting it early here just sort of doubles as the access to the Dream Nail. But I am curious where you're going from there, but we'll find out. Maybe, do you cross Blue Lake with Sea Dash?
Maybe.
We will see. That if so, I'll be excited. Anyway, Crystal Peak here is definitely a scary area. There's a lot of speedrunning strats here, but almost all of them come with a chance of getting hit. So it's honestly one of the more frustrating areas to try to go through as a speedrunner trying to do a hitless run, because all of your instincts basically need to be somewhat suppressed. You need to take some extra time to do things like kill the crystal crawlers, or
This room, which I just sadly am just going to take slowly. We're just going to wait for this thing to come around. That's fine.
See, this room is just terrifying, because all the speedrun strats are very
Super
the
risky.
fastest is like a literal damage tank. Obviously that's out the window. The other strats are if you miss a single jump or anything, you're getting hit. So it's rough.
However, the room coming up is a room where the speedrunning strat is super good. I watch a lot of hitless runners who like don't know the speedrunner strat and take their time and go slowly, which is absolutely not what you want to do in this room. Just go as fast as you can, and the laser cycles just like work out perfectly.
Yeah,
and it's pretty great.
Yeah, luckily, so there's two versions of this strat for the speedrunning. One is is a damage tank, an intentional damage tank that is ever so slightly faster, and then the other is the damageless cycle, which is used in basically every run that needs to actually care about their health here. And that damageless cycle is very quick. Upper demonstrated it very nicely there. You don't get hit. It's damageless.
And our reward is the Crystal Dash, which allows us to fly through the air horizontally to as far as you want. You're supposed to use the Crystal Dash to get out of this area, like the bridge collapses behind you. But instead, we're going to save quit. We've been doing this a lot. Saving and quitting takes you back to the last bench that you sat on. So I've been tactically taking benches where it makes sense.
Yeah, the other benefit of benches is to restore your health, but in a hitless run, that doesn't really matter. So the routing aspect is very useful. So this is what I was hoping for. Upper is taking Crystal Heart for probably the most underutilized access to the right side of the map here, which is using Crystal Heart to go into the secret entrance into Blue Lake, and then crossing Blue Lake with it.
Yeah. Again, in like nearly every speedrun, you would do this by just doing what's called the shade skip, which involves intentionally dying and then using your shade that gets left behind when you die as a springboard to get up here. But obviously, not an option for us. But it's an extremely useful location to get to. Blue Lake gives us access to this, the Dream Nail, as well as Right Side City.
Yeah, so the alternative ways here are all definitely a little bit slow. So usually if runners are going to pick up Desolate Dive, then they will take the city crest and go into left side city, but you can't actually get from left side city into the right side of city where we actually need to get to finish the game. There's additional, usually going through Crystal Peak and then using dive from there is what people do. In the alternative route where you don't pick up dive either, then you actually pick up the tram pass, which is down in Deep Nest and a little bit scary to get to. That actually gives you access to the right side of the city, and that's sort of the standard other way to get there. This is a secret third way, which is actually beautiful, and it uses it goes and gets Crystal Heart using the lantern, and then it uses Crystal Heart to get to right side city.
So here we're picking up the Dream Nail, which is absolutely required to beat the game. We need it to collect the 3 Dreamers, which are locking the final boss. And I'm going to do a small little time save here. This is called the Seer Skip, where you pause and unpause during this cutscene, which lets you gain control during the cutscene and just leave the room before the Seer talks to you.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fun little skip. One of those cases where the speedrun strat has absolutely no danger to it. Impossible to get hit in that room, so just easy to go for that.
Cute little C-dash here, which gets you just in between those 2 enemies.
I like that. It's mildly terrifying. Yeah, that room could actually be scary otherwise, because if you don't do a C-dash there, then there's usually it's a very small gap between those enemies, and if you're not crossing it with that C-dash, then you're crossing it with, a dash and having to time that. So it becomes quite precise. I've definitely had problems with that room in hitless attempts before. Okay, this enemy is being very rude.
Okay, we're fine. So I'm going to change my bench here. I'm going to bench here in King's Station. We'll be save quitting back here a couple of times. I'm also just going to check my relics real quick, because there is a relic in this room I could pick up, but my relic count looks good, so I didn't forget anything.
Yeah, and that relic in that room is a little bit scary to pick up.
Yeah, it's a spooky one, so I don't want to be getting it, but
yeah.
you have the
It's
option.
not too bad when you're used to it, but it's definitely like, it's a case where a single, missed input means you're taking a hit, and you really want to limit those as much as you can during the runs. Obviously, in boss fights, things like that, you can't really avoid it, but where you can avoid it, it's best to. This room is a room that can be very, very terrifying.
Yeah, this room's pretty spooky. Not gonna lie.
So usually in the speedrun, you would do a crystal dash, and that may or may not work. It's completely RNG whether you get hit there. So obviously that's not an option for the Hitless run. But if you go through it slowly and take the upper route, then there's a lot of enemies in your way. And they are flying enemies that are hard to predict, so it's definitely scary in that regard as well.
Speaking of scary, that arena is actually really spooky. Those enemies are very difficult to predict, but we managed to get it nicely. So we've come all the way down here to Basin to pick up a Pale Ore, which we can use to upgrade our nail, giving us a little bit more damage. As I said, I'm not doing a spell build as like almost every speedrun and a lot of Hitless runners do. I'm going to do a nail focused build. We already have Mark of Pride to make our nail longer, and with some Pale Ores we can make our nail significantly hit harder, which will be very useful.
Yep, yeah, the nail upgrades are extremely useful. With each nail upgrade, it increases your nail's damage by 4. So to put that into perspective, you start with 5 nail damage. The first nail upgrade brings you to 9 nail damage, and the second brings you to 13. So almost triple damage from your nail by getting 2 nail upgrades. Picking up a single Pale Ore is enough to get 2 nail upgrades, so that's definitely worth it if you are using a nail focused build like Upper is doing here. And I did the same in my.
Oh geez, wow.
Oh no.
The wall
I think
slide.
that's actually the first time I've ever. So that's the speedrunner strat, which like isn't as dangerous as it looks. I think that's actually the first time I've ever been hit doing that. Actually, sorry, I'm going to go back in this room one more time and just update the hit counter. But yeah, you just pogo that enemy, and it's very consistent as long as you do like every single input correctly. And I sadly mistimed my jump, so
Yeah,
that'll happen though.
Yeah, it happens. That's the thing with these Hitless runs, and that's sort of what I was talking about earlier, where like the strats are consistent and good to go for. But if they have a single input point of failure, then it becomes scary.
That's bad. Ideally, I would have killed this flying enemy immediately. Okay, there we go. We're good. I'm going to be fighting this dude for approximately 6 years, so Quack, if you have any announcements or anything, go ahead.
Absolutely. Don't let me throw your focus on the Great Husk Sentry there. I do want to check in on the incentives remaining open for the day if you are donating, and I'm also side shouting out Upper here, who has committed a very generous amount already with some unfortunate damage tanks here. We have a small handful of incentives remaining open for the day. There is the Remember Me difficulty upgrade next up. There are actually 2 tiers to that. First, at $25, we can upgrade from easy to medium, and then at $50 from medium to hard, as well as a pair of pixelated Metroidvanias this evening, with each one with its own incentive. We've got a Selfish Ending versus Abandonment Ending bid war coming up for Lone Fungus. That's between 2 alternate endings to the game, as well as a Dunk the Robot incentive in Haiku the Robot. Game near and dear to my heart. There's a basketball hoop, there's a robot. You know what to do.
Excuse you. So this enemy sometimes aggroes you during this loading screen, which, okay, they're just going to do it consistently. This might have to do with like the frame rate / stream settings. So anyways, ideally he would just not aggro me and I can just do this. But okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that one is at least inconsistent for me. I think it is hardware dependent, so it might be a problem,
Yeah.
with the the fact that it's that you're streaming and screen sharing and everything. So sorry.
No worries. That's all right. So we're going out of our way to go visit Lem, the relic keeper, who we can sell all of our relics to. We've been collecting relics for like a good chunk of the run. We can use this to cash in for all the geo we're going to need for the rest of the run. So we have a little bit of mashing here. I guess a good point to mention where we're playing in simplified Chinese because it is significantly faster. You may have noticed I was playing Death's Door in English, which is technically suboptimal, but it's like by such a small margin that it doesn't matter at all. In this game, Chinese text goes so much faster than English text. Like, it scrolls faster. There's also less text, but the main thing is it scrolls so much faster that it's just like completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like not even close. Like you save like 20 seconds in like an any percent run. A lot more here where you're picking up additional relics. So it definitely makes sense. Plus, in Death's Door, you know, you want to play in English so that you can read the full title of the Frog King,
right.
Which is, you know, obviously essential.
So we're just doing some C-dashes here to get over some rooms filled with enemies as we go work our way over to the nailsmith.
Yeah, this room can be a little bit rough if you're not doing these C-dashes and you are instead just crossing it. It's not terrible. I mean, most of the enemies are easy to avoid. However, when you're crossing a long room with like a dozen enemies in it, it's very easy to just make a mistake and end up with a hit because of it. So any strats you can find that bring you across a room quickly and safely make the entire run just a lot safer.
Also, fun thing about Hitless, we can watch the cutscenes. I could skip this cutscene, but I'm not gonna. So there.
Beautiful.
There was a time where the route that I took me past the fountain in City of Tears, and I got to talk to Hornet, and I would watch that cutscene every time because that cutscene is gorgeous. Sadly, no longer something I do, which is really too bad because it's a beautiful cutscene.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That cutscene is pretty nice. I do like it quite a lot. And yeah, it's one that you never get to see when you're speedrunning.
Okay, so we have upgraded our nail. In theory, we could go and fight the Watcher Knights, who are actually very close by to us right now. But we don't want to do that just yet because we have a couple of errands that we need to do in Crossroads, and it is very important to do all errands in Crossroads before fighting any Dreamers. For some reason I can't really think of. Maybe Math knows. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, if you've played this game a little bit, especially if you played the randomizer to this game, then you may be well aware that when you pick up a little item called a dreamer, then Crossroads ends up being a nightmarish section, which is called the Infected Crossroads. So you really want to avoid doing basically any of the major bosses until after you've done everything you need to do in Crossroads. Upper was not able to do some of these errands earlier while in Crossroads the first time because of the geo requirements, basically. You know, as you saw, Upper collected literally every piece of geo that he could possibly find and was able to buy the lantern, but the purchases that he's going to be making now needed to be financed through Lem. So this one right here is Fragile Strength. It is a very important charm, which will increase his nail damage by 1.5 times. So again, just to put this into perspective, the base nail was dealing 5 damage. Upper's nail, after equipping Fragile Strength, should be dealing 20 if I'm doing my math correctly.
It is 20 damage, which is just like a ridiculously larger amount.
Yeah, it's 4 times as much damage. So it's just it's a big help in, you know, dispatching with any of the bosses very quickly.
And again, I'm rocking also Mark of Pride, so my nail is significantly larger too, which is really helpful. Here we're doing an acid skip.
Nice.
You're supposed to swim through, or you're supposed to get a power up that allows you to swim through acid, but you can also just make it with a C-dash.
Yeah, that one is pretty lenient. One of the easier acid skips in the game. It has a nice setup, so it's pretty usual to see it in hitless runs, picking up the ability to swim in acid is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to get hit trying to pick that up. So the acid skip is always the right call, and you save the grub so everybody's happy.
Yeah, we saved that grub because why wouldn't you? It's a very important part of the route.
Yep. Yeah, that
I'm gonna
grub
grab
geo
this
is gonna
bench
be
just for
essential.
safety. In theory, we don't need it, but there's a small chance we die to Umu.
Yeah. Don't want to tempt fate.
Yeah.
Not with Umu.
Umu is a very, very like random and tricky boss. Like I wouldn't say they're like the hardest boss in the run or anything, but they're just like it's so easy to just randomly mess up and take a hit to Umu. There's so much movement, precise movement that you have to do.
Yeah, Umu is pretty tough, and just as a reminder, Upper does not have Isma's Tear, which allows him to swim in the acid. So the acid at the bottom of this arena will in fact hurt him. He cannot fall into it. So he has to be careful and make sure that he stays on these platforms or on the wall. And Umu is being a little bit rude, giving these slow attacks here. Yeah, with a 20 damage nail, you should be dealing a pretty solid chunk of damage with each cycle here. However, oh no,
silly. That's fine.
Umu only has a small period of vulnerability, so this is one fight where the nail build can be a little bit harder to deal with because of the fact that you're only able to get in a couple of swings while Umu is being rude.
Yeah, this is like the one fight where I would prefer the spell builds. In literally every other fight in the game, I think the nail build is better. Or the spell build is for... You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Umu is the one fight where you really do wish you had the spells, but still with the 20 damage nail, it was still...
yeah, it's still not bad, certainly.
Yeah, pretty quick there, 3 cycles. But yeah, Umu definitely can be frustrating for these runs.
All right, I will update the hit counter in just a second.
Yeah, so this is the first Dreamer that Upper is going to be picking up. We do need 3 of these. These are analogous to the Great Souls that we just saw in Death's Door, if you were watching that run. But basically, these 3 Dreamers have sealed away the final boss of this run, the Hollow Knight, and we need to go and open that door. So we need to go and defeat the Guardians blocking them, then enter their dreams and absorb them.
Can I jump in super quick on the Dreamer cutscene?
Sure, go ahead.
Amazing. We have a $5 donation from TFT saying, "Good luck to Upper with Bird Game." Wait, this is Hollow Knight? It looks like the late donator gets the bug game. In either case, best of luck. Thank you, TFT.
See, if I'd had any sense, I would have submitted Hive Blood to this marathon, and then I could have made the epic 2-parter Birds and the Bees pun, but I sadly submitted Hollow Knight Hitless instead. I can't do that.
It's not too late to go to the Hive.
That's true.
Hitless Hive sounds fun.
Yeah, Hitless Hive sounds fun, as does like getting Hive Blood in a Hitless run seem very valuable.
Yeah, I can't really think of any charms that I'd rather have in my Hitless run than the one that heals me.
So Dreamers, every single one of them, they are a hard save, so we have to actually climb on out of Teacher's Archives rather than just save and quitting to the bench, which is a shame, but I mean, it's actually kind of fun movement, so not a big deal.
Yeah, so that's one of the main pieces of routing frustration in the game is the fact that those Dreamers are there. And I see that Upper has not opted to take the extremely precise trick into one of the hardest areas in the game for his Hitless run. He will not be going to Queen's Gardens here, and it is instead heading on down to Deep Nest through this entrance here, through Funky Waste. So this is only a tiny bit slower, even optimally, than the than the Queen's Gardens route, but especially in a hitless run. First of all, it would require one of the more precise tricks that we know of, which is Queen's Gardens acid skip, and then second of all, it involves going through Queen's Gardens, which is filled with both a very terrible mandatory arena and also one of the longest and worst rooms filled with flying unpredictable enemies. So easy skip, heading on down into Deep Nest, the slightly slower way for sure.
So this is theoretically a pretty scary area, but with my builds, this is actually like one of the easiest splits in the run, if not like actually the easiest. Our nail just one-shots everything in Deep Nest with my current nail level, and we have super far range, so it's just like actually super hard to get hit by anything in this area.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's actually like, this is honestly one of the selling points of this route that I'm doing, is like Deep Nest is actually like very, very simple.
Yeah, it's a tale of two routes between yours and mine. Mine does Dark Deep Nest with nail 0 and like no charms, and yours comes through here in the light with like a bunch of damage. I lose all my runs here. You don't lose any runs here. You know, it's making a lot of sense.
Right. But yeah, so like these enemies, we just boop. Please
the fact
get
that
out of
these
my
are
way.
one shots is just beautiful.
And then these acid spitting spiders, which are all over Deep Nest, we also can just pick off in a single hit.
Nice.
Which is really, really great.
Yeah, so this room would be the first dark room in Deep Nest, but Upper picked up the Lumify Lantern very early, so he's able to see here. And it turns out this room's a lot easier when you can see where you're going.
It's true.
This room as well. This room is probably the worst room to do in the dark if you're going to attempt to. So it is luckily in the light here in this run, and when you can see where all the spiders are and where all the spikes are, and also you one-shot them, and also you have Mark of Pride, this becomes a lot more consistent. This is a selling point. I'm not gonna lie.
Also, Mark of Pride allows you to do that.
Oh, that's pretty.
Amazing.
That right there makes me want to go fight Mantis Lords.
Right.
Everyone has a price at which they will do early Mantis Lords. It's just about finding that price.
But unironically, so like this route does fight Mantis Lords early, and I honestly think that is like the easiest option compared to early Deep Nest or Left Side City. Like both of which are actually like very cursed. Left Side City just has like a ton of flying enemies, and like a couple of mandatory arenas that you have to do. And it's like really long. There's like a big platforming segment with spikes that you have to do as well. And then Deep Nest is obviously Deep Nest.
Yeah. I think I kind of agree with that. I think in terms of difficulty, like the Left Side City routes are probably getting dive, and maybe D-Dark as well. But that means they have to do Soul Sanctum, and that's not a fun time. Yeah, so these Devouts here, the way that they work is they wait to open their mask, and once they do, they will attack. If you hit their mask while it's closed, they'll attack you, so it's just a waiting game. You can get in technically 2 hits before sneaking away, but it's pretty tight. 1 hit is very consistent, and with a 20 damage nail, it doesn't take too long to kill them, even with only 1 hit per mask opening. Yeah, one-shotting these spiders as well just makes this whole area so much easier.
Yeah, it's really great. This is like one of the most terrifying areas in an any percent speedrun, because your nail deals no damage, and like you're low on HP probably, and it's just like... and you're obviously trying to go as fast as you can, and the spiders are all very, very random.
Yeah.
But like in Hitless, we can go slow, and with our nail, it's just like totally fine.
Yep. Nice done there. Easy life.
Yep.
Yeah, the any percent strats when you have low damage actually have intentional damage tanks on some of these spiders as well, so it's definitely one of the scariest parts of a typical any percent run. But yeah, with this build, it becomes a lot nicer.
All right, and that is our second of 3 Dreamers. We have one left. We've saved the best for last.
Yes, so Upper did have a chance to fight the Watcher Knights, who are the final Dreamer Guardians here, when he was in City earlier. But at that time, well, when first passing, he had Nail 0 and no Strength. The second time that he had the opportunity would have been right after the Nail upgrades, but that would still only be a 13 damage Nail. So picking up Strength is going to make that fight a lot faster.
And it also doesn't really lose a whole bunch of time because we have the stag station anyways, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's really not much time. And like you said, at the end of the day, this is the goal is to finish it without hits, not to finish it quickly. Quickly is the, secondary goal.
Yeah. You could route in Watchers a little bit earlier. After Umu, you could, or even before Umu, why am I going to Dirtmouth? That's a good question. You could actually go to Queen Station and then come back to King Station and fight Watchers first. A reason you might want to do this is because Watchers are arguably the hardest of the bosses, and you might want to get them out of the way earlier in the run, but...
yeah. Watchers without any iframes can be a little bit tricky. Are you playing on 1.5 or
yes.
1. Yeah, so on 1.5 they have an ability which was not present on earlier patches. Well, it was present on way earlier patches, but not on any of the patches that people run on, which is a back roll, and it looks the exact same as their forward roll when they're getting started, but they go backwards and much more quickly instead of going forward. That can be a little bit scary to deal with, and without any iframes, you don't have any kind of get out of jail free ways around anything. So that's one.
Control me probably. Yep. It's fine.
Yep.
Little bit less of an issue with our nail.
Yeah, it's sort of like compare and contrast that whole sequence to the exact same sequence earlier, but with Nail 0 and not Strength, and you can see it's pretty different.
And again, that's sort of one of the selling points of this route is just not so much the bosses, though I think the bosses are easier. It's just like the odds of you getting hit by a random enemy on the map are so much less when you have Mark of Pride for additional range and like you one-shot everything.
Yeah,
it's just like really remarkable. All right, I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah, so this is the Watcher Knights. This fight is pretty tricky. I think that with Upper's current nail, it should be either 11 or 12 hits per Watcher Knight to kill. The first one is not too bad, but the after the first one is dead, then we get pairs that spawn. Basically, as soon as one dies, another one will spawn. There are 5 total Watcher Knights. There would have been 6, but Upper broke the chandelier that killed one. You can see its remains there on the left-hand side of the screen. And Upper's doing a pretty good job of managing these. The idea is you want to kill each pair around the same time, so that you have both spawning together.
In a speedrun, maybe.
Yeah, well,
I'm doing the exact opposite here, in fact.
Yeah, I guess for Hitless, you probably want to spend as much time with only one.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah,
very nice.
But yeah, so specifically, I try and focus down a single one because they actually die pretty quickly, and you can sort of keep yourself in a state of one is always in a dying or spawning animation, and you sort of solo the other one. To some extent, you can pull it off. And yeah, with our nail, we kill them pretty darn quickly. So.
Yeah, that makes sense with that damage nail, that you'd be able to get almost bring their health down during the spawn in animation, which is very, very nice. Yeah, that's the idea in the speedruns that get a lot of damage, is you basically want to kill them as they spawn. Not quite as much damage here. Those require very late game upgrades to pull off, but this is still a pretty good amount.
But yeah, that's definitely... most people would say Watchers are either the hardest or second hardest boss in Hitless. So getting through that without any damage, I'm pretty pleased with. I definitely think the final boss is tougher, personally, but...
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting about Hitless is how the run really ramps up as you get to the end. I know you say you can ride in the Watchers a little bit earlier, but like the whole boss rush that happens at the end, basically, your deep dance trap makes it a little bit of a respite, but you know, Umu is never free, and then Watchers are definitely tough, and then the final boss, which will be coming up very shortly, is also always at least a little bit scary. Very easy to take a hit to the Hollow Knight in Hitless. But yeah, Upper is now going to basically backtrack. Once again, the Dreamers are a hard save, so he needs to actually exit this area, but it's pretty easy to go through here with the mail upgrades and
yeah, nothing too dangerous, anyways.
Yeah,
We have a couple of nice C dashes here, which avoid all the enemies as well.
that's nice. Yeah, and then the basically the idea here is we've now picked up all 3 of the Dreamers, so the door to the final boss will be opened. That is in Black Egg Temple, which is actually in Crossroads. So this is the only bit of infected Crossroads that we're seeing in this route, which is a victory, I would say.
Okay, so the most important part of the run, I need to give Elderbug a high five for good luck. All right, we're good.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Okay, so yeah, this room, luckily, very easy not to get hit in, and the next room doesn't have any enemies at all, so a very easy trip through infected Crossroads here.
And again, not a speed run, so we can show off some minor glitches that waste time but are wonderful. This is called Superman. For obvious reasons. If you just crystal dash into this cutscene, this happens, where you just kind of are in the state where you're flying.
Yep, I love this. The knight can get stuck in any animation, and there's some fun ones, especially if you're using any mods like Custom Knight that can change some of the animations. You can get stuck in some great poses.
All right, so here we are. This is the final boss. Definitely, in my opinion, the hardest boss in this run. Our nail hits really hard, but they have a lot of HP still and have a lot of really random, scary attacks.
Yep. My one hit in my PB was to the Hollow Knight, and I had, I believe, this exact nail build. So, or well, without Mark of Pride, but yeah, it's a tough fight. It's very easy to just press the wrong button or read one attack wrong. And end up getting hit. This boss is pretty fast. If you've watched Hitless runs on older patches, on the most common patch that people, or like down patch run that people will do is on patch 1221. That fight is a lot easier on that patch. The Hollow Knight got significantly buffed in patch 1.4 and became faster and also deals more damage. Not that that's relevant for Hitless, but the speed is definitely a tough point. And yeah, there's a lot of different attacks. Once you learn all the different tells, then it can be reasonable, but it's tricky. This attack especially can be terrifying, but it's also a great opportunity to get in a lot of damage there. The other attack, the self-stabbing attack that THK was doing a minute ago, this one right here, you actually can't deal a lot of damage during that. Also, GG's.
Yeah, nice, Hitless. So time's coming up for what it's worth. It's when the screen fades completely to black. But yeah, obviously we gave it 5 hits, but we got through the 2 hardest parts of the run, Hitless. So
yeah, very good show.
Yeah. Nicely done, Upper.
And that's time.
GG, Upper. Yeah, Hitless Watchers and Hitless Hollow Knight, you cannot be mad about those 2 feats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, I'm gonna look at timer delay. It looks like 102.28, so still
Yeah, not bad.
very, very appreciably fast for not a speedrun technically. But GG, Upper, go ahead and give what shout outs you would like to give, and tell the people one more time where they can find you after this fantastic double header of indie game goodness.
All right. So first of all, shout outs to the organizers of the marathon and all the people working behind the scenes. Thank you for having my two runs, including a Hitless run in a speedrunning marathon, which is I don't know, a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to show it off, and hopefully people appreciated it. Shout outs to the Hollow Knight speedrunning community. It's a very large and welcoming community, and Hollow Knight's a very fun game. If you want to get into it, there's tons of resources and help, and everything you can need to get into it. As for myself, once again, I can be found on twitch.tv/Uppercaserole. And yeah, that's basically it for me. Matt, do you have any shoutouts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, definitely both of these runs were fantastic. Upper, thank you. Definitely check out the Death Store and the Hollow Knight speedruns if you're interested. And yeah, like Upper said, for Hitless, there's a ton of different runners, a ton of different routes. And if you're a speedrunner and you think, hey, that looked pretty fun, maybe I'll try some Hitless. Definitely jump into it.
Amazing. So with that, I am also going to be signing off as host for the remainder of the marathon. It's been a ton of fun hanging out with all these incredible runners and with Green Gaming Fest in general. It is not the last you will hear my voice, however. I will be back late tonight doing some speedruns of my own for this marathon. But we're going to pass it off to Flotsam once we come back. It's going to take up the host mic, as well as we are going to get Viper UK in here with some Die Hard Any Percent out of the Die Hard trilogy. You don't want to miss that. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me, and I hope you'll stick around.